Hello everyone, my name is AP the Weird One, and we are back with episode 6 of Ameku M.D. Dr. Detective, the finale to the Spontaneous Human Combustion series of episodes, episode 3. So, the main theme of this episode is love, oddly enough. This is what it all boils down to encompassing, and it's very interesting how it ties in. This episode is a bit complex. It took me a couple of rewatches. I need to watch it 2 times to kind of thoroughly think about, understand everything. The episode is very clever in a sense that if you don't pay attention and wait till the end, okay, you can let yourself be suspended and wait for the true answer, or you can pick up on matters as the episode goes on. Because we finally figure out who the killer of Awe is, the assistant, and also Dr. Morodo. And the other instances are, they kind of relates to, but the third incident is kind of related. And the characters that I initially thought were very minor become bigger importance. Kaguya and Haruka, the daughter of Dr. Morodo. Their involvement is very big in this. They had a nice kind of clever way of doing things that make certain characters important in one episode and then make others more apparent or more important in the next, such as Aoi being important in the first episode, but then her death comes along, and subsequently Yuta and Kaguya having a little bit more importance, but then Yuta and then Haruka finally being the big stars of the show in this episode. Now, I guess to me, one of the very first hints of who the suspect is happened in the beginning of the episode. I'm going to spoil this for you, but Haruka, the daughter, is the killer of both Aoi and Dr. Morodo. How that happens is a bit interesting, how they solves it and the clues that they leave towards it. The beginning episode, we have Haruka waking up from a nightmare of her father on fire, kind of going after her. She's a little bit scared, but the thing that I noticed upon rewatching is that she seemed to be kind of numb to it. Like, she wasn't angry or upset. She wasn't super crying. I don't know. If we had a little bit more context, because Kotori mentions a little bit later that she's not doing well. She's very upset by it. When my mom died, I was a ball of crying mess, and I didn't fall asleep till midnight. I don't know. I wasn't very fine the next day. I don't know. I'm a man, so I handle things a bit differently. But for a woman, I would think she would react differently if her father was super beloved or someone she really cared about. But the next big clue, and this is a bigger one. She's trying to figure out how the combustion happens, and Dr. Sakurai, he calls, and he's asked, have you looked into the medical history of both the daughter and mother? And he's like, yeah, I'll send that over to you. Thank you very much. And then following that, she's wondering about if the Dr. Morodo had a blood sample, because that would explain a whole bunch. And turns out my had taken a blood sample, but it just never got an order because he passed away. Following day, we get both the results for the family history, medical history. She had some bloody stools. She was very unconscious. She was a battered mess, to say the least. Well, to give a bit of spoiler, and of course we get the result, the blood sample result, and it does boil down to smoking. It relates back to smoking in an interesting way, but what I thought was going to be the culprit is a very different culprit, and in fact it kind of relates to modern day in a way. We'll get into it, but following the test results, the two need to go to the storage. They need to go to the storage area immediately to catch the culprit. Well, the red herring culprit, Kaguya. He's the red herring culprit, but they get there. They use Mai's bike because his car burned down, and he hasn't got a new one, which Dr. Ameku was very upset. She likes it when he's reliable. But they get there, he's laying down gasoline, and because he wants to burn the evidence, because he can't get access to the real evidence, which we'll find out later. But they break down the 4 incidences. And the 2 that are important are obviously Aoi's death and Moroto's death. They're the big ones. But of course, there's also the third one is the burning, destruction or explosion of Dr. Ikari's funeral. He causes it because he realized how Aoi actually died and everything, and he loves Haruka and doesn't want to get her arrested for the murders of Aoi and also Dr. Moroto. But that unfortunately backfires. She kind of stalls things until Dr. Sakura comes along. He and his detective, and also he brings Haruka along. But while they're discussing things, the culprit for the spontaneous human combustion is white phosphorus. And this relates back to the smoking because back in the 1800s, they used white phosphorus matches because they could easily burn. They had a lower burning point. She mentions 60 degrees Celsius in America. That's 122 Fahrenheit. Though the research I've done is a lot lower, and she even mentions that basically human temperature or the temperatures in Arizona could easily set this off. But the important thing is white phosphorus is very poisonous, very, very dangerous upon consumption, and they were eventually banned in Japan in 1921. White phosphorus is still used today by Israeli forces. They like to use it against Gaza, Lebanon, their enemies. So yeah, that's kind of how it relates to important. President Trump says he wants the Gaza Strip. So we have that. Anyway, eventually after a little bit of discussion, these 2 arrive, and of course he notices that Haruka has arrived, and he of course threatens to burn down the place and say, "Hey, arrest me," and everything. But of course, she notices that he's there, and she's like, now the people are here, let's do it. Yeah, it's like as soon as she's here, like, yeah, like there's no other obvious, it's her, she's definitely the murderer. They're not being too clever, they just want you to pay attention. Can you catch on to things? So we kind of learn why Haruka done it. Dr. Moroto was an asshole. He was abusive. She beat her and beat her wife. They had gone to multiple hospitals to treat their injuries, which I guess if you have an abusive husband and you don't want to get caught and everything, or like if you've got trust issues, like you don't want to raise concerns, yeah, you would do that. But after following the mom's death, Haruka comes back and she wants to take revenge. She has a little bit of a science degree and science knowledge, because she realizes that Moroto has white phosphorus matches and gave it to him. Hopefully he will suddenly combust. That unfortunately never does happen. Aoi gets killed, and so she's kind of gets confused. Akari's death throws her off. Aoi's death, and then of course the funeral blowing up. It causes a lot of problems for her eventually, and especially considering that her father has not died. He eventually breaks down. It's like, all right, I can't wait any longer. I need to kill him. She mixes in phosphorus into his food, and then that's what causes him to have problems and sent to the hospital. And because he had the matches and a heating blanket, he suddenly bursts into flames. That's how it happens. And the red marks are the effects of the white phosphorus in his blood. So he eventually gets caught, and she's gonna she comes in and she decides that she's gonna basically commit suicide. She doesn't have anything to will live for. She drops a match and causes the place to go in flames. Everybody backs out. Katori rushes in and he thinks he's gonna save Haruka, but he doesn't know what to do or anything. Eventually, Meko drives in a motorcycle, Mai's motorcycle, and she's like, what are you thinking? Like, did you want to die or anything? But she confronts Haruka, and she's like, you don't know anything about me. Like, why are you trying to save me everything? It's like, yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on with your mind, but I do know one thing. Your mom loved you, and the only reason you're out of the house is because of her. She intended you to live and move on. Yeah, you're going to have to pay for some crimes, but if you can by paying for those crimes and continue living, you can live your mother's final wish is for you to live. Yeah, it's gonna suck, and I'm not a lawyer or anything, but in Japanese law it'd be different. But also that she was abused, so they taking accountability of that. But yeah, she saves them, and then of course, firefighters and everybody come in and rescue them because she's cleared a way for them. There was some shelves and everything that fell down, preventing anyway from getting out, and Dr. Ameku using the bike make that happen. Dr. Ameku and Katori have a sweet moment. It's like, hey, thanks for saving me. Like, no problem. Oh, by the way, can you pay for my bike? It's like, why does it have to be me? And she complains. And of course, we have the outro. And next episode, we get a bit of a taste of Miss Sassiness's problems. She is, from the looks of it, she's getting sued for medical malpractice. That's from what I determined. Should be a very fun thing. Even though I didn't watch House, I know Dr. House, being his attitude and everything, he most likely would have gotten sued. So that's nothing new. But and then also her personality would definitely cause that, her being super smart ass. But yeah, that was the end of the episode. I did watch a little bit of the dub version of the first episode, and the actress, I'm not gonna lie, actress in question, Jocelyn Thomas, she doesn't do it for me. Tako Ameku, or Dr. Ameku, has a very sassy gremlin voice. Like when she says Katori, like she sounds like a little child. Jocelyn gives off a very seductress. Like, say both these actresses were to say seduce you with their feet. To give an example, like, because she's flat, she's trying to be flirty and everything. Dr. Ameku, I would laugh at the Japanese version. I'd kind of laugh like, like, oh, you're so cute. But with Jocelyn, I would probably be enticed into it. It just felt a little too mature for me. I didn't think the delivery was that. I think she was just the wrong voice actress. Not to say that she isn't bad or anything, although her voice sounds familiar. I was looking at the IMDb and seeing anything that stood out to me. But yeah, that's the end of that. Hopefully you guys enjoy this episode, my review of it. I definitely recommend watching because there was a lot of red herrings. It was hard to follow along, and I think that in a way that made it a good episode. But it was like, yeah, I gotta really think about it and seeing that, yeah, it was clever. But if you paid attention, you could have caught on a little bit sooner. I sort of did when Haruka made her appearance in this part. Like, okay, it's obviously her, but I wasn't 100% sure. See you guys next time. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys for next week, episode 7.